Most of us know the opening stories of the Bible. The garden, the snake, the tragic mistake. We've heard it since we were kids. But what if there's a completely different way to read it? What if the book of Genesis isn't just ancient history, but a secret map to a higher state of consciousness, hidden in plain sight? For centuries, many have read these stories one way, but there's a whole other layer waiting to be explored. In this video, we're going to explore the symbolic meanings that have fascinated mystics for ages, uncovering a guide to personal transformation that feels as relevant today as it was in the beginning. This isn't about questioning your faith. It's about going deeper. It's about seeing the story with new eyes. Many spiritual traditions teach that Genesis holds the keys to understanding not just where humanity came from, but where you, as an individual, are headed. It's a journey of revelation, and it starts right now. Let's be honest, for a lot of us, reading Genesis can feel frustrating. We often approach it as a literal history book or a science text from the Bronze Age, and it just doesn't seem to fit. We read about a 6-day creation, a talking snake, and people living for 900 years, and it all feels disconnected from our world. It's easy to wonder, what does any of this have to do with my life, my struggles, my search for meaning? The problem might not be with the text itself, but with the lens we're using. What if we've been trying to read a spiritual blueprint as if it were a construction manual? Many believe the ancient authors weren't writing a scientific report. They were conveying profound spiritual truths using the language they had, the language of symbol, metaphor, and divine allegory. To understand this, it helps to know what most biblical scholars agree on. Genesis isn't a single book by one author, but a masterful weaving of much older traditions. The prevailing theory, known as the documentary hypothesis, suggests it was compiled from several different sources over time. Now, some more speculative theories propose that Moses himself compiled even older records, perhaps passed down through generations. While there's no historical evidence for that specific idea, the fact of composite authorship shows a careful preservation of sacred layered traditions. The goal was never just to report historical facts. It was to preserve a map of consciousness, a map of the soul's journey. So, let's try on a new lens for a while, the lens of symbolism. So, if Genesis 1 isn't a literal 6-day timeline, what could it be? Let's look at it symbolically, starting with verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. From a metaphysical viewpoint, this isn't just sky and ground. God can be seen as the universal creative consciousness, the creative force that also exists in you. The heavens can symbolize the realm of pure ideas and potential, while the earth represents the physical manifestation of those ideas. Before anything shows up in your life, it first has to exist as an idea in your consciousness. Then we read, "The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep." This describes a state before creation. It's pure, unformed potential. Have you ever felt a deep yearning for something more, but you couldn't quite put it into words? That's the formless and void state. It's the fertile chaos from which all creation springs. Into this potential comes the next piece. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. In ancient symbolism, water often represents emotion and unseen energy. This could be seen as the divine spark, the life force within consciousness preparing to act. It's that moment of intention where your awareness starts to focus on that unformed potential. Then comes the first divine command. Let there be light. This is one of the most powerful phrases in Scripture. Metaphysically, this light isn't just about the sun. It represents awareness and clarity. It's the aha moment when a vague desire becomes a clear idea. It's the dawn of consciousness itself, the first step in bringing anything into reality, whether it's a universe or a new chapter in your life. Creation begins with clarity, Now, what about the creation of heaven? On the second day, God makes a firmament to divide the waters above from the waters below, and God called the firmament heaven. From a spiritual perspective, this isn't a solid dome in the sky. It can represent the structuring of your own mind, creating order out of chaos. It's about discernment, the ability to separate your higher aspirations, the waters above, from your raw, unformed emotions, the waters below. And here's the first secret this interpretation reveals. Heaven isn't just a place you go when you die. It's a state of consciousness you can create right now, a mind that is ordered and aligned with wisdom. Seen this way, Genesis 1 isn't just a story about how the world was made. It's a step-by-step blueprint for becoming a co-creator in your own life. Now that we have a symbolic blueprint for creation, what about the Garden of Eden? If it isn't just a spot in ancient Mesopotamia, what is it? Mystics and sages have long taught that the Garden of Eden is a symbol for a state of consciousness. It represents the human heart or soul when it's in a state of direct connection with the divine, a place of inner harmony and limitless potential. Into this garden, God places Adam. The name Adam in Hebrew is related to the word for ground, Adamah. But in this symbolic reading, he represents the spiritual potential within all of us. The text says, God formed him from the dust of the ground and breathed into him the breath of life. This is a beautiful allegory for our dual nature. We are made of dust, the physical, the temporary, but we are animated by the breath of God, the spiritual, the eternal. Have you ever felt that duality in yourself? That sense of being grounded in this physical world with all its limits, yet also reaching for something more, something transcendent? That's the mystery of Adam. You are both dust and divine breath. The story of Genesis is about navigating that powerful inherent tension. From this perspective, the garden isn't a lost paradise we can never return to. It's the state of our own soul when it's aligned with its source. The spiritual journey, then, isn't about finding a new garden, but about tending to the one that's been inside you all along. In the center of this inner garden, God places two mysterious trees. This is where the map presents a choice, a pivot point for human experience. Symbolically, this isn't about botany, it's about two different ways of being. First, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For centuries, this has been seen as a story about a forbidden apple and a God who wanted to keep humanity ignorant. But a more modern psychological interpretation sees this tree as representing the consciousness of duality. To eat from this tree is to choose to see the world through a lens of separation and judgment, me versus you, good versus bad, right versus wrong. It's the egoic mind that constantly compares, competes, and fears. When we live from this tree, we're trapped in a world of opposites. But then, there's the other tree, the tree of life. This tree symbolizes a state of being that is whole, unified, and connected to the divine. To eat from this tree is to live from a place of unity consciousness, seeing the divine in all things, and moving beyond opposites into a state of unconditional love. This choice between the trees isn't a one-time event from thousands of years ago. It's a choice presented to each of us in every moment. In every thought and action, are we choosing separation and fear, or unity and love? Interestingly, ancient mystical traditions like Jewish Kabbalah took this symbolism even further. The Kabbalistic tree of life is a complex map of the soul's journey back to God. While this system is an interpretive overlay and not found in Genesis itself, it shows that ancient seekers also saw these stories as a profound map for personal transformation, a guide to get back to the tree of life. The fall, in this view, wasn't a punishment, but the natural consequence of choosing a consciousness of separation. We're about to explore what the fall truly means for us today, and how the rest of Genesis might provide the way back to the tree of life. If you're finding this journey valuable, take a moment to subscribe. It lets me know we're on the right path together. So, what happens when we choose the path of separation? The story calls it the fall, but you can also see it as an awakening into a different kind of reality. When Adam and Eve eat from the tree, the first thing that happens is their eyes were opened and they knew that they were naked. Symbolically, this is about more than nudity. It represents the soul's sudden, jarring exposure, that feeling of vulnerability and shame that comes from feeling disconnected from our source. The serpent is the symbol of the force that tempts them. In many modern psychological readings, it represents the lower mind, the voice of ego, doubt, and materialism that says, "You're not enough. You need something outside yourself to be whole." It offers knowledge, but at the cost of our peace. From this interpretive viewpoint, the curses and the expulsion from the garden aren't arbitrary punishments from an angry God. They're the natural consequences of living in a consciousness of separation. When you see the world as separate from you, you have to toil and struggle to get what you need from it. This is the life east of Eden. But here's the crucial part. Hidden in the consequences is a glimmer of hope. In Genesis 3:15, God says to the serpent that the seed of the woman will bruise your head. Christian theologians have long seen this as the proto-evangelium, the first gospel, a hidden prophecy that a future descendant will ultimately overcome the power of deception. This is the turning point on our secret map. It tells us that even in our separated state, the journey isn't over. A path back to the tree of life is not only possible, it's promised. If the first chapters lay out the map and the problem, the rest of Genesis shows us what the journey back looks like. And it is rarely a simple stroll. It's a struggle. It's a wrestling match. There's no better example than the story of Jacob. Jacob, whose name means supplanter or deceiver, lives his early life by the rules of the tree of knowledge. He's a manipulator, constantly striving to get what he wants through his own cunning, the archetypal, ego-driven man. But one night, Jacob finds himself alone and terrified, and a mysterious man appears, and Jacob wrestles with him all night. While the text presents a mysterious physical encounter, it's long been read as a profound spiritual allegory. Jacob is literally wrestling with God. Have you ever felt like that? Wrestling with your fate, your circumstances, or your own inner demons? This story suggests that struggle is an essential part of the spiritual path. The fight lasts all night, and Jacob refuses to let go until he gets a blessing. In his moment of greatest weakness, when his hip is injured and he can no longer rely on his own strength, he finally clings to God. And in that surrender, everything changes. God gives him a new name, Israel, which means he struggles with God. He walks away with a limp, but also with a new identity. He's no longer Jacob the deceiver. This is a roadmap for personal transformation. It shows that the way back to grace often requires a dark night of the soul, where we're forced to confront our own ego. It's in our weakness, when we finally surrender, that we can be made strong and given a new, divine identity. So, after exploring this symbolic reading of Genesis, what are these secrets of heaven? They are living truths about the nature of reality and our place in it. The first secret this reading uncovers is that heaven can be understood as a state of consciousness, not just a destination. It's the well-ordered mind we can start building right now. The second is that the core human journey is a return to unity. We all live with the influence of the tree of knowledge, the consciousness of separation. This map shows that the spiritual life is about journeying back to the tree of life. The third is that You are a co-creator. The command, "Let there be light," is an ongoing invitation for you to bring the light of your awareness to the unformed potential in your own life. The fourth secret is that true transformation often requires a struggle. Like Jacob wrestling the angel, we have to grapple with our own ego. It's in that struggle and eventual surrender that we can find a new spiritual identity. And finally, the promise of a way back is woven into the very beginning. The map doesn't lead to a dead end. It leads ultimately toward healing and restoration. We began this journey seeing Genesis as maybe a dusty old book, but by learning to read its symbolic language, we can see it as it was meant to be seen by many. A living, breathing map for the human soul. The secrets of heaven aren't just out there in the stars. They are encoded in these ancient stories, and more importantly, they're encoded within you. Genesis is a key that can help you unlock them. The garden is your heart. The choice is always before you. Which tree are you eating from today? If this opened up a new perspective for you, you'll want to explore our next video, where we decode the secrets of the flood and the mysterious giants of Genesis 6. Click here to continue the journey. And let me know in the comments, which symbol from Genesis resonates most with your own spiritual path?